problem with confronting certain behaviors, like, as it regards addressing what we call transphobia and homophobia, is that a lot of people, for the most part, have been raised to view transsexualism or transgenderism as inherently wrong. They have been raised for generations to view homosexuality as inherently wrong. So when you are a part of a society that has been, for the most part, groomed and indoctrinated and mind douched to see same sex relationships or people who identify in ways that don't align with the norm, it is justified by the masses. And when we talk about the masses, we're talking about the portion of society that is not wealthy, the portion of society that is working class and poor, because the majority of people on the planet are working class and poor, and this is by design. This is why we have something called the 1%. Now, when you get up to the 1%, it really doesn't matter. You don't see people in the 1% furious with their child for being trans. You have one example, and that's Elon Musk. I don't think that Elon would be really mad at his child for being trans if the goal wasn't to bring more Caucasian people to the planet, because obviously Elon wants Caucasian dominance, and transgenderism does not align all the time with that agenda, especially if the trans person is considering medically transitioning. That means that they're not going to be probably procreating. They may freeze their eggs or their seeds. They may freeze some sperm. They may freeze their eggs, but a lot of times they're not considering procreating or bringing children here oftentimes. And so it does not align with populating the earth in a way that aligns with Elon's agenda. And, he made a slew of children. So maybe he wanted all of his male offspring to go out and make a slew of children. And the problem could also be that it's a trans daughter and not a trans son. A female who would be transitioning in a way that aligns more with patriarchy and would still have that womb to be able to make them children and ultimately still be able to carry on the family name. So it would have been interesting if this would have been a trans son, how Elon would have reacted. His problem with transness could be that sometimes it doesn't work in a way that's effective to his ultimate agenda. And so when we are confronting homophobia and transphobia, we have to understand that most people behind the scenes are engaging in trans behavior and not even aware of it. A lot of the women who we consider to be transphobic are very masculine naturally, are very aggressive, and so they channel that masculine and they channel that feminine energy. Very non-binary in essence, quite genderless, but the construct benefits them because they are biologically female, if they uphold the construct, then they're incentivized. They're incentivized to uphold the construct. I'm still a woman. I was born with a vagina. I'm making babies, and those babies are going to grow up Christian, and I'm a good Christian, God fearing woman, and I am bringing babies here, and I am respecting the patriarchy. So give me my 40 acres and a mule. Give me my reparations. Give me my just dues. They're incentivized to align with things that can be viewed as transphobic and homophobic, but they're still engaging in trans behavior. They're still engaging in behaviors that allow them to move between gender, to move between the spaces, to be aggressive, to be dominant, to be a provider, to be a protector. Jess is the things that are both of the roles, but because Jess spews a rhetoric that condemns, even with Angela Stanton King, like aggressive, has a protective nature. This woman has shown guns in her videos, like, and is always talking about fighting, like very dual spirited, very dual in their identity, but it is incentivized. If you're going to maneuver like that, it is incentivized that you speak a rhetoric that condemns owning and naming what it is that you're doing. Anything else other than I am a woman, I bear children, my children are Christian, and they will honor the father. They will be loyal to the patriarch. And so it's incentivized. If I'm going to maneuver in a way that challenges gender, I cannot verbally name what I am doing. With homophobia, it's the same way. A lot of these men are DL. A lot of these men are participating in homosexual activity. And so if you're going to maneuver in that way, it is incentivized. You are protected. You are supported by tradition, by the history of this nation, by this nation's values, by the church's values, if you don't name it. And even as it regards homosexuality, the root of it is still not being dissected because homosexuality is rooted in non binary ideology and non binary principles. You are wanting to be in a relationship where you are able to give and receive, where you are able to navigate masculine and feminine energy and not having to fit into specific roles. You are free, you are more free to be whole in that space. And so we're not even discussing what homosexuality is rooted in. Okay? With this eye, not these. If you condemn it and you continue to do it in private, it is incentivized. And so we have to talk about why they're moving in the way that they are. We have to look at how it has been incentivized to not celebrate it, to not add language to it, to not add clarity to it, to not speak about it in a way that is uplifting or empowering, to put it down, to diminish it, and to not do the work of exploring it, to not elevate it in other people's minds, to not expand the conversation, to keep it where it is. And so that allows them to still participate in the behavior, that allows them to still express that sexuality in private, to still maneuver in from those spaces in private, and also sometimes very publicly. But at the end of the day, when it is time to speak about it, they speak about it in a way that aligns with how we've traditionally viewed homophobia and transphobia in this nation. And that's why it's very difficult when the trans community, when the LGBTQIA is trying to confront these behaviors with language that for most people is not even 10 years old. It's like a child going up against an elderly person. The logic of this nation, the elderly logic, the elderly mind of this nation on paper is the elderly mindset of this nation is homophobic and transphobic. And so it's justified when the older folk who refuse to do that work because it does not, in the long term, benefit them, okay? In their minds. They're not worried about being on the right side of history. They're not worried about when they die being viewed as homophobic, being their legacy being a legacy of homophobia and transphobia, because this language to them is still infantile, it's still childlike, and therefore it's not going to stand the test of time in their minds. Even if they have done the research and they know that trans people have been around since the beginning of time, that gay and bisexual people have been around since the beginning of time, the system in which we're operating under supports their logic. It is financially beneficial to them. They are incentivized. And so we have to do deeper exploration, and we have to focus on what incentivizes the behavior rather than what the result of the behavior is. Because the result of the behavior is I am going to publicly come out as being transphobic, aligning with conservative views, conservative values. I'm going to publicly come out as being homophobic, aligning with conservative and traditional values. But we have to go deeper to understand what is incentivizing the behavior and speak from that level, because when we are living in a society that is actively working to erase the language that we're using to defend ourselves, it makes the conversation more difficult to have. And so we need to be able to go further than just calling someone transphobic, further than just calling someone homophobic, and speak about the root causes of these behaviors and what is incentivizing this behavior. And it will always go back to the church. It will always go back to the government. And the government is a product of the church. And this is why purple thought has been so important to me. This is why Laylim Layler culture has been so important to me. Because all these years, I've never taken my focus off of that. And honestly, this is why there's been so much conflict and friction between me and some of your community faves. We have to look at our trans leaders. We have to look at our queer leaders. We have to look at the LGBT, at our LGBT leaders, and we have to ask them, y'all understand that this language is being erased. This language is being suppressed. Why are we not having conversations that speak to what is incentivizing this behavior? Because a lot of the people who come off as transphobic are maneuvering in ways that aligns with transgenderism. A lot of these people are maneuvering in ways that align with homosexuality. So what's really going on here? What's the root cause? Let's unpack that conversation a little bit more. Okay? Laylim Layla Nation, purple ones, rise.